And good morning, people. Just go ahead and get things started before we begin this shindig, because it's kind of going to be a short one, but um, should be an interesting one. So let's go ahead and put this wonderful face on me. There we go. All right, so let's just go ahead and get into it. So today's date is September 7th, 2019, and this is how the frack we got here. I'm your host, most Will Buchanan, on how the frack we got here. We do try to take the events of the week and try to also make sense out of it all. Before I do get started, this is an adult podcast, which means that things of an adult language and things of a graphic nature may be shown. So viewer discretion is definitely advised. So really, how do we really begin? There are certain things in the news cycle that honestly just need to be let go. Once it happens. But apparently, and because of things in this nature like hurricane season, wildfires happening in different countries, especially in very important geological areas and things of that nature, we are unfortunately stuck with this.
With the Carolinas and the Bahamas picking up the pieces after Hurricane Dorian, President Trump is still defending his magic marker meteorology, tweeting, "The fake news media was fixated on the fact that I properly said at the beginnings of Hurricane Dorian that in addition to Florida and other states, Alabama may also be grazed or hit. They went crazy, hoping against hope that I made a mistake, which I didn't." Despite a week's worth of fact checks showing that's not true, the Trump campaign is cashing in, selling these Trump campaign markers for $15, a big markup from what they cost in stores. Former White House Communications Director Anthony Scaramucci once again claimed there's something wrong with the president.
I think the president is in severe mental decline. And I'm not saying that now because I'm a political adversary or I disavowed him. I'm saying that objectively, just looking at what's going on.
But the White House may have bigger problems on its hands after the latest unemployment numbers found 130,000 jobs were added in August, below expectations, given that 25,000 of those positions were for the census. President.
So I'm going to stop it right there just because the simple fact of the matter that I'm not sure whether or not that is played. So basically what happened, and sorry guys, the audio did kind of skip out on that. What basically happened is at the beginning of the week, when Hurricane Dorian was headed toward Florida, Trump decided to play weatherman. I made a joke about that in the previous podcast. The problem is he basically guided the wrong area, saying Alabama may be hit. Alabama being a landlocked state really necessarily doesn't get hit by hurricane seasons that much, except the fact that his prediction was a little bit off, and for the simple fact of the matter is that everybody was making fun of it. Now, you think the president would just turn around, you think the president at this point would just turn around, brush it off, and keep pushing. That's what a president does. No, Trump decided to defend his point, almost alarmingly stupidly defend his point for reasons beyond our comprehension, and really, it just got down to the point of why are you even talking about it? You're not a weatherman. You even asked your staff what a Category 5 is, which is amazing to me for someone who gets weather, military, and other reports daily. Well, depending on when he decides to get up and do something. But it is amazing to me that he sat there and literally and figuratively decided that, I'm going to defend my point that I was right. And again, we shouldn't be, and then at the same time, we shouldn't be surprised. Why? Because baby Huey loves to be this epitome of always being the smartest guy in the room, being the rightest, being the guy who always has to be right and never has to apologize. That pretty much we have a vain ass president is the way to look at it. And also, not only because he was fighting this stupid idea of him literally saying about his weather. Also, you do remember a long time ago where he said, we're going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it? It's more like our military.
Fleet and the largest naval base in the world. The area's central and vital role in military operations and national security hasn't stopped the Trump administration from naming 4 different military projects here, whose almost $80 million in funding will now be diverted to pay for the border wall.
All of these projects are being lost for a wall that makes no sense and everybody knows it.
Democratic Congressman Bobby Scott has represented the district for almost 3 decades and says President Trump's decision is costing his constituents jobs.
It means that the jobs that could have come to the area won't come to the area. Tens of millions of dollars worth of construction. That's a lot of economic impact to this area that we're going to lose for a wall that is not needed.
In all, $3.6 billion in military funds are being taken to help pay for the wall. 127 projects, from firing ranges to aircraft hangars to childcare, both at home and abroad, whose budgets are being gutted. In Virginia, the 4 that are losing $77 million in funding are a naval ship maintenance facility, 2 hazardous materials warehouse projects, and a cyber operations facility. In a place with such a historic and important military heritage, where 40% of the economy is related to military funding, that hurts, both financially and emotionally.
Our community is a fabric built on military veterans and a very healthy military population here in the Hampton Roads region, so I think there's a general sense of disappointment.
Bruce Stirk retired from the Air Force as a colonel, last serving at Langley Air Force Base, which is now being stripped of $10 million for that cyber operations and training facility. At a time when cyber attacks are one of the greatest threats to national security, along with others that will now be ignored, says Democratic Congresswoman Elaine Luria, a retired naval commander whose district is also affected.
I know firsthand from, having spoken to the commanders at the bases where this impact is going to happen, that it is going to impact our mission and our security.
Not just the security of the nation, but those serving it, whose priorities now may not be addressed.
It's like your husband, it's your neighbor, it's your wife who's going on a deployment, and you don't want to think that their ship wasn't maintained properly, or they didn't have the right tools that they needed to go do their job. So it hits home a lot in a community like this where everyone is so tied to the military.
The Pentagon is pushing back on this notion that these projects have been defunded. They say they've just been deferred, that they'll get their funding back at a later date. But this $3.6 billion had been specifically appropriated by Congress for these projects. And Kate, it is getting political. Democrats say this is exactly why you have congressional approval. And now to get those projects refunded, the money needs to be reapproved by Congress, which is far from certain. And then when it comes to electoral politics, if you look at just the 23 states that have been affected here.
So we're just going to leave it at that, because I very much want to say so much. Mexico is not helping us build the wall. Your military is. And this alone should tell everybody, for the simple fact of the matter, aside from Trump being full of bullshit, the wall really doesn't serve a purpose other than that his construction buddies are literally going to be making money off this. Technically, this $3.6 billion that he's getting for the military is supposed to go to 175 miles of border wall. And I'm thinking to myself the entire time, I've said it once and I'll say it again, a wall doesn't do shit since planes have been invented. And immigrants are also flying into the States. They're not always going across a river, over this imaginary river, and this fencing that, I won't say Republicans, but I'll say some people who are against immigrants have this image of just a person crossing the street, or I'm sorry, not crossing the street, crossing this desert and whatnot to get here, and they're the worst of the worst because they've been told that. They've been told that they're, gang members, thugs, rapists, because they've been told that. It's never just simple fact. The matter is that an immigrant could have just left a war-torn country, fleeing for their life, and now they're being told they have to go back, where a lot of immigrants said if they go back, it's death. And what happens? They die. And it's amazing to me that we're in a nation of immigrants, and yet we can't seem, and yet baby Huey doesn't like immigrants, unless they're from Russia. But it's amazing to me now that the border wall itself, which was the foundation of his campaign, and if you've noticed, he doesn't say that anymore. But I find it interesting that just like a typical failing businessman who runs schemes to get rich, he's doing Congress the same way, because he's taking money from somewhere else to make it look like it's for someone else, but really it's getting paid to someone else. All the while, we are just sitting here wondering how is a Congress allowing this to happen? And then you think of Moscow Mitch. But moving right along as far as that goes, a new story that's come out about vaping, and it's starting to actually gain a little bit of steam as far as what's happening with that.
Okay, the e-cigarette community. Now California has confirmed a death connected to vaping-related illnesses.
We're here today to announce the first known death of a Los Angeles County resident related to the use of e-cigarettes.
Authorities there issuing a warning about e-cigarettes and say while the epidemic crosses age groups, about 2/3 of the cases are in teens and young adults.
We join with the Centers for Disease Control to advise people to stop vaping now.
The CDC says they're working tirelessly and relentlessly to investigate what appears to be a surging number of severe lung illnesses linked to e-cigarette use, reporting more than 450 cases across 33 states.
We really encourage people to avoid these products.
Officials say patients with this mysterious respiratory illness typically have flu-like symptoms and shortness of breath for several days.
I'm 18 years old. My lungs are like a 70-year-old's.
Adam Hergenrieder was hospitalized for days. He almost didn't make it.
They told me if we didn't bring him in when we brought him in, his lungs would have collapsed and he would have died.
While the common cause of this severe reaction is believed to be chemical exposure, it's still not clear what specific product or chemical may be responsible for the recent spike. Now, some lawmakers are demanding that more be done. Senator Dick Durbin says it's a vaping epidemic. He's calling on the FDA commissioner to take action in the next 10 days, or else he says he'll call for his resignation. Maggie Rulli, ABC News, New York.
So, it's amazing you said where it's vaping, and you guys remember a long time ago, Stephen Dorgan had this commercial about vaping. I think it was blue cigarette, e-cigarettes when it came out. He's like, when I blow it out, it's not cigarette smoke, it's vapor. So I still get my flavor. And it's like, for the longest time, e-cigs used to, have this thing about how they would advertise stuff. And for the simple fact of the matter, it was just along the lines of just, well, it's just e-cig, it's just blowing out vapor. We're not harming anybody. There's no secondhand smoke. And I always thought to myself the entire time, you know that you're smoking an electronic device with a small-ass humidifier, and literally you're smoking a flavored tobacco substance. Now, it doesn't take away from the simple fact of the matter that, yes, you're still going to exhibit the same things. So it's amazing to me where it's like, it wasn't downplay about e-cigarettes, but it's just amazing to me now the ignorance behind it. Where it's like, 450 cases have been linked to smoking. And don't get me wrong, if you smoke e-cigarettes, hey, you've made your choice. That's on you. I'm not knocking you for it. But it's amazing to me where a lot of people are now going, well, it's almost as if they assumed e-cigarettes were safe, the way they talked about it. And I was like, it's still tobacco, whether it's in liquid or chemical form, it's still tobacco. And just like tobacco, if you keep smoking it, chances are you're going to develop lung problems or emphysema or possibly subjected to cancer or about a million other things that can be associated with smoking tobacco on a regular basis can do to your body. In the same sense, why are we not surprised that a synthetic liquid or a jewel pack, is what they usually call them, would basically have the same effect? It is one of those things to where, like I said before, it's literally not the epidemic. It is them saying that you thought something was a little bit safer and decided to run with it. That's where you got stuck. And now when you see so many cases being linked to this, it has to be something in this that is causing all these cases. Yes, tobacco. There's no way around it. Tobacco. It's almost like you don't want to say that forbidden word, but it's almost the same sense. It is synthetic tobacco. The problem is when it's synthetic, it's chemical, which means that you can make adjustments to it. And let's be honest, they probably have. But again, you really shouldn't be surprised that so many cases are popping up about this, only because advertising. Instead of a cigarette, have an e-cigarette. And again, to all my smokers out there, hey, I'm not knocking you for that because of the choice that you made. I'm just saying that the entire situation behind e-cigarettes makes no sense because the danger was always there. It just wasn't advertised as much. So really be surprised about that. But moving right along, this other story I have here about CVS, Walgreens, and actually Walmart. If you guys haven't heard about this, they are literally saying so much for this point is just that they're urging people who openly carry not to carry in their stores anymore. The reason being is, a multitude of reasons. One of them actually is that the most recent crimes that happened. And you got to remember, there was an incident at Kroger's. I want to say almost 7 months ago, where a man was, where this one guy went on a shooting spree inside the Kroger's and killed about 7 or 8 people before he was taken. And then you also got to remember my previous podcast, I did actually talk about another individual who was body armored, 100 rounds of ammo, gun on his hip, and was going around asking people and causing, and when he says his inquiry was going around seeing how people would react to him walking around with that, which caused massive panic and got him arrested. Dumbass. But basically those things that happened kind of prompted, well, it was actually Walmart at first. And then other places started joining in, Walgreens, CVS, Target, and actually, as I read this, Starbucks and Wendy's. Wow. So they're asking their customers to not openly carry guns in stores unless you're a cop. So which is okay because you recognize the cops, so therefore you know it's okay for them to carry firearms. So, interesting conversations. Usually, I know a lot of people that are of the concealed carry group out there, very intelligent folks, and we've went back and forth about this idea because concealed carry, if you guys don't know, means that basically that you're not showing that you have a firearm, but rather that you have a permit to carry one and to dispense it to protect your own safety. I've always been against that. The reason I put about the concealed carry because it adds, this was always my point. It adds the level of paranoia, and fear because people see someone openly carrying and they're not a cop. You're immediately going to leave. That's what I do. I leave. I simply put that I actually leave wherever I am because I did it once before. There was a guy who literally had an AR attached to his back. I'll never forget this for as long as I live. I was in a Kroger's. The guy was walking into the store with an AR attached to his back. I left. I mean, I had a cart full of stuff. I had my favorite caramel ganache brownies. I was happy. I had my cheesecake. I look up. I see this cat with an AR on his back. I pretty much left my cart where it was and I walked out the store. Reason being, I didn't want to be anywhere associated with that, like at all. Because to me, I don't trust that guy to do whatever he thinks he can do. The whole, because let's be honest, when shit hits the fan, you find out what kind of person you are. You truly do. But at the same time, I'm not about to trust this cat to be Davy Crockett right now when anything else, anything and everything can happen. And for the simple fact of the matter is, that also means that not only is he, not only in the romantic fashion that he's the good guy with the gun, chances are he might be the guy that just decides that today might be the day that he takes everybody out of the store. I'm just saying. I don't want to be a part of that scenario. The reason why I leave. So when concealed carry comes up, I'm like, it's basically the same notion. It's just that I don't know. And here's the thing. If you don't know who's in the store carrying, then again, that adds to a level of paranoia. But I've always said it best about concealed carry and how I feel about it. If a gun isn't allowed in a courtroom, in a federal building, in a post office, at a bank, or any other place where people congregate, but it's completely fine to take it everywhere else. Shouldn't that alone tell you something right there about our whole idea toward firearms? I'm just saying. Because to me, it makes no sense. Now, I applaud these stores. I really do for taking a stance on this. And again, it is an attack on gun rights. Because keep in mind, I've always said it best. I own firearms as well, but they're to protect my home. They don't go outside with me. They don't travel in a bag with me unless I'm going to a gun range or whatnot. It's the simple fact of the matter is just that it's not an attack on gun rights because of businesses deciding what they can and cannot do. You cannot be mad that you're saying that you want the same freedom to decide what you want to do. And at the same time, when a business decides to sit there and incorporate that and you have a problem with it, then honestly, you want to be able to say you have your cake and eat it too, and that's not how the way it works. So, for all those that kind of feel some type of way about it, I'm sure there'll be a store that allow you to open carry there, and I'm pretty sure we're going to hear about a shooting well after it happens. Um, so moving right along with that, Cory Booker, who one of the Democratic presidential hopefuls, which thank God that field of 20 got narrowed down to 12. I feel like we're watching the final four for Democratic presidents, and I hear shit from the GOP side, even though there is one candidate running against Donald Trump, but they choose not to report it. Shocking. But Cory Booker's been in the news a lot lately because of his link with Betsy DeVos, which it's interesting in his case because they both served on a board that was literally for taking public funding and putting it toward charter schools. Now, honestly for me, I've had issues with Cory Booker because it's amazing on this Democratic trail. Elizabeth Warren has put out plans. Bernie Sanders has put out plans. Pete Buttigieg, Andrew Yang. That's four people that have actually put out plans. Kamala Harris, which she put out a housing plan, and yeah, it's. Let's just be honest. She just put out a plan, which I was surprised that's all she talked about because she couldn't get off Joe Biden's ass to save herself. But she's put out something at least. Cory Booker really hasn't put out anything, except that now the story has came out about his link to Betsy DeVos. If you don't know who she is, she's currently the idiot that is the Secretary of Education in the Trump administration. And I mean idiot because here's the thing about her. She doesn't know shit about education. She bought her job. She's a billionaire. She donated to Trump's campaign, and Trump basically selected her for Secretary of Education, and somehow Congress passed it with flying colors. I wish I knew. But in Cory Booker's case, him and Betsy DeVos literally served on the board of directors at a Betsy DeVos affiliated school. Yeah. Can you see the conflict of interest here? And it's amazing to me where he's trying to defend it, where he says, "Well, other Democrats were working with Davos too, and we had to make decisions." Here's the thing, Mr. Booker. I'm at this point because right now your presidential candidacy is, aside from it being a long shot, it just now came down between Slim and none, and Slim left town because back in 2013, before when he won his Senate seat, it was a simple fact of the matter. Beforehand, he was serving on the board of directors for the Alliance of School Choice, a group that was basically ran by Betsy DeVos and her husband. Again, how do you not see the conflict of interest? So Booker at this point is pretty much going to be running backwards on this because now, just like Joe Biden, he's now going to have to defend his record. And it's going to be very difficult for Booker to do because he's already been aligned with Jared Kushner. Because you remember Jared Kushner, the man who, despite being a Russian compromised asset, somehow still has access to the White House? Yeah. Again, that's two strikes in my opinion. Kushner's one, Betsy DeVos is two. I'm almost certain there's a third one coming. I am fairly certain a third one's coming. Um, but beyond that, as far as, but it just amazes me so that, like I said, democratically wise, I mean, I always sit there and say, like this, like I say on How the Frack We Got Here, we're not about simple fact of matter of just saying what's the best candidate. I always said it best. Please, oh please, go do your research. Don't always assume that. Don't always assume you know a candidate. Please, oh please, go do your research. I can tell you everything that I know about Warren, about Sanders, about Buttigieg, about Harris, about Booker, about Yang. And the other candidates, which tells you that how much little noise they're making. That somehow, oh, Amy Buchlar, which is amazing, she's still there. But again, do your own research because that's the thing about it. These individuals out here who are basically running to beat Trump, because let's be honest, we're not going to survive. We are barely surviving this first term as it is. Um, but it's still a fact of the matter. Do your research first, because that's what makes the big difference in how you approach each candidate. Because this stuff like this just gives a lot of pause to certain people as far as things they go. But moving right along, guys. Trump believes in doing a lot of shit. I'll give him that. But I believe this is a bad idea for the housing market. And what I mean by that is Trump wants to privatize Fannie Mae. Fannie and Freddie Mac. Now, for those who own homes, you probably know who Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are. They are basically the government backed mortgage plan that gets a lot of people into homes. Um, which usually, if you haven't noticed, about a couple of years ago, they actually had to bail out Freddie Mae and Freddie Mac by giving $187 billion during the recession period of 2008, and now they are still in the red. Now, what Trump has, how can I put this? He calls it tax reform, but he's actually looking to privatize it. Here's the problem with this: privatization doesn't work, especially for government programs. They've tried it once before, Kansas, and you see what happened when Kansas tried to privatize things. They tried to cut taxes, they tried to privatize services, and the only thing that happened is that actual state went upside down. Now imagine that's a state. Imagine if you're a homeowner that got a mortgage from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and privatization, I can never say that word, privatization took over. Now, what does that mean? That means companies out here, banks, can turn around and actually buy those loans and then do whatever they want with them. They could increase the rates. They could increase the monthly payments. They could even, for lack of better words, buy you out. All against whatever decide choices you make. And at the same time, they are actually allowed to do whatever they want because it's privatization. And like I said before, privatization never works in the situation because let's say, for instance, I'll give you a prime example. Let's say you're in a home right now that is in the low 800,000, and you have a 30-year mortgage fixed at let's say a 11.9 APR rate, which means that let's also say that you could be paying anywhere from uh, let's say you can be paying anywhere from $600 to $900 a month. Now that's just on spitballing. So, but what I can say, but to use that example, how Freddie Mae and Freddie Mac could do this if they're privatized. A privatization company come in there, knock your APR interest rate out the roof, which then can increase your monthly payments from anywhere from 100 to almost 500, almost $700. And let's be honest, the only reason they're doing that is because they are basically capitalizing on a situation. And that alone is crazy. And it's legal. That's the messed up part about privatization. The things that they can do is completely legal. There's not really you can do anything about it. At the same sense, because Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are the biggest mortgage lenders out there to this point, imagine what would happen if privatization took over. The same type of fear that we should have towards Secret Service being privatized is the same type of fear you should have that if Trump decides to push this because he's all about tax reform because he's trying. It's what's always funny. And every time Trump admins talk about tax reform, any Trump admins or even Baby Huey himself talks about tax reforms, I'm like, it's funny the man who doesn't want to show his taxes is going to talk about tax reform. That's pretty much like a priest who's been in trouble for child pornography is going to sit there and tell you that porn is bad. Right. But again, really shouldn't be surprised because Baby Huey is going to try. And he's tried before because you see, he hasn't gave it up on that wall yet. Um, but moving right along, guys, some football news which I find interesting. Usually I don't talk about sports here on How the Frack We Got Here, but I do follow football, and it's always interesting to me that you should always, especially football players do endorsements. This is true. There's no knocking around that. But in the same sense, you want to think that you've done your due diligence. Whatever you're endorsing or signing on to endorse, that you embrace everything that comes with it. You would think so. So if something would happen to come up, you would be along the lines of just saying, yeah, that's the reason why I signed on to it because they accept my values. Well, Drew Brees finds himself in trouble just because he was doing a short video for Focus on the Family and about taking your Bible to school day, which to this day I just do not understand. But apparently he did a video talking about his favorite Bible verses for taking your Bible to school day, and for the simple fact of the matter, the Focus on the Family, which if you don't know who they are a conservative Christian group, but they actually have a history of opposing gay lifestyles, which labeled them as an anti-LGBTQ community. Basically, they're just against the gay community. I'm sorry. It'll take me a while to pronounce that. But anyway, they're against it. So, Drew Brees did a little short commercial for them, and then turned around and got the backlash because, let's be honest, Focus on the Family, that's not the gay lifestyle. Drew Brees just did a commercial for them. Vis-a-vis, Drew Brees is against gays. And when that happened, he had this to say.
Hello everyone. There's been a lot of negativity spread about me in the LGBTQ community recently based upon a article that someone wrote with a very negative headline that I think led people to believe that somehow I was aligned with an organization that was anti-LGBTQ and so on and so forth. I'd like to set the record straight. I live by two very simple Christian fundamentals, and that is love the Lord with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. I think the first one is very self-explanatory. The second one, love your neighbor as yourself. What does that mean to me? That means love all, respect all, and accept all. So that is actually how I live my life. That is what I try to do with my family, with my teammates, with people in my community, with my friends, all people, no matter your race, your color, your religious preference, your sexual orientation, your political beliefs, it doesn't matter. So the fact that these rumors have been spread about me are completely untrue. What I did was I filmed a video recently that was encouraging kids to bring their Bibles to school for National Bring Your Bible to School Day. To bring your Bibles to school, to be able to live out your faith with confidence, and I even gave one of my favorite Bible verses. It was as simple as that. So I'm not sure why the negativity spread or why people tried to rope me into certain negativity. I do not support any groups that discriminate or that have their own agendas that are trying to promote inequality. Okay? So hopefully that has set the record straight and we can all move on, because that's not what I stand for. Have a great day.
I mean, I'll give it to him. I mean, he at least tried to save it. Here's the thing, and this is why I point this out. For the simple fact of the matter is, just like I said before, whatever you're endorsing, you're going to take the heat for. Nike took the heat and will still take the heat because they made Kaepernick their spokesperson. The simple fact of the matter is, Drew Brees is no different. Now, I respect Drew Brees can sit there and be proud of his religion, be proud of his beliefs, and say about it how they directed his life. Nothing wrong with that. A lot of players, players that come to the podium. First, I want to thank God for this ability that He's given me and all this, blah blah blah, blah yaggity yaggity. So again, there's nothing wrong with that. Because personally, I do like Drew Brees. I mean, the guy seems like an all around nice guy. I do think that this was, for lack of better words, I think this was maybe an oversight because he was doing something for a controversial group. And again, this is why I go back and I say, whatever you do or associate yourself with, you want to make sure that you do enough research into it because we are living in such a micro analyzation of sorts. Because that's like saying, let's say tomorrow, this podcast takes off better than I thought it would. Let's say that the company that sponsored me is Fox, is in that Fox News, and let's just say the Fox News Corporation sponsors me and says, "Hey, we want to bring you on national syndication. We want to put you behind Hannity. We want to, show people that we don't. We want to show people that we're very tolerant of other races, that we love black people, not just that one weird-looking black guy on Fox Business News." But let's just say they offer me the red carpet and everything associated with it. Now, if I knew nothing of Fox News, cool, because I thought I made it come up. Because at the same time, now I'm getting everything that I hoped for that would come along with this podcast. But let's say I didn't do my research, and then I get on Fox News, and then I get on Fox News, my own podcast, and then let's say I get on Fox News. Let's say I'm on Fox with friends, and what is going to be said about me? That I'm siding with hatred, that I'm siding with ignorance, that I'm siding with so many things that Fox News has been called, and I'm just sitting there the whole time. Just smiling because it's all I can do. The same reason why I always sit there and say is whatever you look into, whatever you sign on to, you better make sure that you understand the people that you're signing with. Now, I'm not saying Drew Brees didn't do that. I'm not saying, obviously didn't do it. He probably didn't at all. But I'm saying that there needs to be some research. Just because you hear wholesome things like focus on the family, which, being a Christian, being from a Church of Christ, Christian background, that is all the freaking videos they played. Again, I get that, and I knew their stance on LGBT. You guys gotta come up with a better acronym I always say they're always against alternative lifestyles because I never can say LGBTQ. Hey, I said it, LGBTQ community. They've always had an opposition, and they'll cite religion every other time, which is the reason why, for a lot of it, I disagree. But in Drew Brees' case, there's nothing wrong with your, touting your religion, saying you live by it and whatnot. Religion, it's your choice. It's when you force it on other people who don't want it, that's where I have the problem with it. But at the same time, with the whole national take your Bible to school day, if you want to, you want to. I'm not going to knock you for it. I just think that it's just kind of odd that you'll take your Bible to school day, and then you basically are against gay people, and then once you find out that the group you did the video with is associated with them, then you gotta say, wait, that's not me. And I just find that interesting. But again, I'm glad that he's cleared up on his end, and maybe it'll stop there, maybe it won't. Just depends on what the LGBTQ community does. But moving right along, guys. This is not a shocker at all. The Education Department rejected 99% of applicants for student loan forgiveness program. Shocker. And what we mean by that is, aside from the clickbait ones you probably see on social media, there was a student loan forgiveness program for those working in the public sector, basically called the Temporary Expanded Public Service Student Loan Forgiveness Program. Actually, I think it was I take it back. Temporary Extended Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. You'd think they would actually shorten that down because that is way too many words just for one program. But anyway, that was an actual program that was actually out there. And I believe, let's see, yeah, 54,184 people completed the application between May 2018 and May 2019. And out of those, 53,523 were denied, and only 661 were approved. 99% of those applications were rejected. Now, if you wonder why I keep harping on that, it was because it was done by the U.S. Education Department. Who runs said department? Betsy DeVos. Hey, it's the idiot all over again. And it's amazing to me that this was supposed to be a loan forgiveness program that, let's be honest, if you have student loans, and I say this all the time because I have student loans is a motherfucker. And I think the simple fact of the matter is just that it was created as predatory lending. It was created as helpful lending at first, just because if you wanted to have higher education, that you wanted to find ways to secure that, or in hopes of getting a career or a higher paying job, which is always the dream with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, it's only when these companies realize that they ran student debt the same way big pharma runs medical insurance and basically healthcare. They run it as a for-profit business. Student loans is a for-profit business. It is never designed to actually get the borrower out of debt. It just keeps them paying, which in this case keeps interest going, which in this case is Christmas for student loan companies. We really should not be surprised since Betsy DeVos literally still owns a part of a student loan company. One right now that is actually associated with Sallie Mae. Again, how is this not a conflict of interest? But really should be surprised by this is that it's amazing that the excuses that they're saying, the reason why they were rejected, pretty much said that, what did it say? According to some of the reports, some of the education keys that online resource for borrowers did include information on the expanded program, and the agency doesn't require federal loan officers to include that information on their websites either. So you're going to blame a lack of information for the reason why more than 90% of these were rejected? Come on now. If a student loan person can find you in the middle of bumfuck nowhere on a payphone, then it's obviously that you guys don't have any problem trying to find information on it. You really don't. But you're gonna sit there and try to sit there and say, well, it's because we have enough information, it's because of this. Why don't you just come down and say what you really want to say? We want y'all to keep paying. It's as simple as that. Because let's be honest, and I've said it before and I say it again, it's the same reason why I kind of like Sanders. I like Sanders and Warren a little bit better than everybody else. Warren wants to eliminate 90% of student loan debt. Bernie wants to just turn around and eradicate it. And I've said it best. If you simply invest in the American people, that's where the economy turns around. You don't invest in companies because companies doesn't always necessarily mean turnaround. But if you invest in the American people, which every Democratic president has done, the economy's flourished. What happens when you invest in companies? The economy crashes. History repeats itself. So really should be surprised about that. But moving right along, another story that's come up, which is very weird and very odd, but again, I think I'll let the story speak for itself on this one.
Lori Gaynor.
Hi, Taman and Micah. Tonight, she is apologizing for being insensitive, and she says she wants to make it clear that Crushers Club has no policy regarding hairstyles. While a free concert in Grant Park yesterday helped to kick off the new football season and the collaboration between the NFL and Jay-Z's Rock Nation, posts from Twitter user Resist Programming are raising questions about the Crushers Club, one of two Chicago organizations selected to receive a $200,000 grant through the league's Inspire Change social justice initiative. In this now deleted tweet from 2016, founder Sally Hazelgrove is seen cutting the locks off a teen's hair. It says it's a family thing. We box, mentor, make music, and I get to cut hair. He's freaking out, but looks so cute. A tweet posted a month later says, and another crusher let me cut his dreads off. It's symbolic of change and their desire for a better life. Tonight, Hazelgrove is apologizing.
And retrospect, I can see how that would be perceived as insensitive, and I definitely regret that social post. I have no problems with dreads. The majority of the boys in here have dreads, so I've had over 500 young men go through this program, and since we opened in 2013, and that's never been an issue.
It is an expression of who I am.
David Stovall is a professor at UIC. The backlash comes as Jay-Z has come under fire for partnering with the NFL, even though the league faced accusations of blackballing Colin Kaepernick following his protests over police brutality.
Are we asking the larger question around how this person is actually seeing those black youth that they're working with? Because that's always the issue, because we are always viewed as black people as something to be changed or fixed.
In response to the controversy, Crushers Club posted video from the young man in this picture, Kobe. Hazelgrove says he's a shooting survivor who asked her to cut his hair.
Cut my hair like 3 years ago. That's something I wanted to do because I was tired of it. Tired of gangbanging, tired of messing up.
Hazelgrove also being criticized for a tweet that referenced All Lives Matter and another asking for President Trump to help Chicago. But she says she did speak to an NFL representative today who said the club will still receive that $200,000 donation. The NFL has not responded to our request for comment. Reporting live tonight from Inglewood.
Oh, the tangled web we weave. Well, how can I say about this? First off, I wish people would stop calling them dreadlocks. Reason being, I hate that word. Dreadlocks pretty much was invented by someone who didn't like the hairstyle, or probably couldn't do it themselves, and tried to make it ugly. Hence the word dread. Hence the word dread for locks. Like, anybody who sees this, they're locks. That's all they're out. They're not dreadlocks. If you call them dreadlocks, I will immediately correct you on the spot. The only reason I say that is because the stigma behind them is that locks are dirty, dingy, smelly, what have you. They're not. They are actually beautiful symbols of hairstyles, just like natural hair for my sisters. I get that. At the same sense, I can't stand when I see certain stuff like this, because now it's the whole imagery. Now, if a man wants to cut off his locks, hey, he cuts off his locks. I did it one time to get myself out of a fan belt situation, and I was mad too because that hair was all the way down here. But had to cut myself out. So again, it took me a while to even get back to this. So, for the simple fact of the matter, I just never could understand why if you got locks, it's a commitment. Don't get me wrong. Having locks is a commitment, and it's a pain in the ass sometimes. Sometimes you want to scratch your head. Sometimes you want to dip your head into an ice pen because of the itching and whatnot and the irritation. Yes, it happens. We accept that. However, from a school standpoint, which this Crusher Club is, really it's a bad image as far as that goes. Having her cut off the locks, if you sit there and says, well, I want the locks cut off, if I want locks cut off, okay. I don't think it should be social media push. Now, she apologized, but it's like, it still rubs me the wrong way to see that happen, to have those locks cut off by a white woman. I'm sorry, it bugs me. That's about the best way I can put that. It bugs me. But in the same sense, it's just that I do kind of think that it sets a certain social image that, a society won't, and this is, I think, what bothers me the most point. It's almost like that social image of society will never accept your hairstyle, but you must conform to it. I mean, don't get me wrong. If a person can sit there and spike his hair, dye his hair 16 different colors, and basically go around looking like he got into a fight with a staple gun, nobody blinks an eye. But my lock having ass walks into an area, all of a sudden I'm prime suspect number one. Figure that out. But again, it's also amazing to me that this club was selected from the partnership of the Social Change Initiative that was launched by the NFL and by Jay-Z. Now, I could go on I can go on for the next 30 minutes with how I feel about that, but I actually did that on my other podcast on how the Frack We Got Here about J-Bo, and the simple fact of the matter is just that I didn't agree with the way he went about this. Like I said, he's a businessman. He just signed on to an opportunity, and pretty much he's paying for that. Now, I just think for some fact of the matter is just that this is not the best way you want to show social change by having a white woman cutting off locks of a black child. Yeah, social change indeed. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and go into our good news segment, guys, because like I said on How the Frack We Got Here, usually we do have a lot of doom and gloom as far as bad news, but it's the weekend. You want to leave out on something good notes. And I love, first story, I love finding these stories. Mainly put because these are some lucky sons of bitches out there. And at the same time, it's always that integrity. I'm talking about this story here, where a conductor finds $9,000 in cash left on the train and return it back to the actual person. The conductor shown there says that he found a folder that contained 90 crisp $100 bills and decided to go ahead and report that to the Metropolitan Transit Authority, transit stops, the MTA cops. Being this is out of I believe New York, so he gave it to the MTA cops, who then made sure it got to the rightful worker. But it's amazing to me. It is amazing to me about stories like this, to where it's always that integrity question. And I love that because a lot of people are embarrassed to say it. Like, I'll be honest with you. If I was him, or if I was anybody, and I found a folder, and in that folder contained money, and there was no way I could, I'll be honest with you, if I found a folder containing money and nobody's in the vicinity of it, what envelope? I would just be honest. I'll just take it. Because, let's be honest, it's almost like a wall scenario. Like, I'll be honest, like I've always said, it's to their best. The simple fact of the matter is, and I know I'm about to say this on recorded media because I'm going to be honest about my answer. It was always say you found a wallet that had the user's address, information, things of that nature. Let's also say that let's just say there was, $500 in it. So you found a wallet for $500, but you have the identification of the individual as well as everything else associated in the wallet. What do you do? Now, a lot of people would sit there and say, well, if I have the driver's license, I have his address, I'll just mail him his wallet. I'll mail said person's wallet back to them. And that's cool. That's noble. That really is. However, in my case, I would mail back the wallet. Yeah, I'll mail back the wallet. If you're wondering the answer to the second question, the answer to the second question is, well, yeah, I said I'd mail back the wallet. That's all I got. But finding money on a train though, at that point, that's open season. That's like fun. That's like walking around, and I've had that happen sometimes. You walk around on the ground, and hey, there's $20. Or like it happened to me about a month ago. I was walking past this one car, and I swear to you, this clip that had $200 in it, just $201 bills, just rolled out from under the car, onto this person's car I was walking past. And you know how you're walking, you're looking down, and that little glint or something catches your eye, you're like, and you immediately see money, and I just did like this, just put my foot on it, and I looked around. I just want to make sure nobody was around because I didn't want to pick it up and God would be like, oh, thank you, you found my money. Nope, I'm going to look around first. And if nobody's saying nothing, pick it up. Ooh. And trust me, it's been a while since I've seen Ben. It's nice to see Ben's face every now and then. That's all I'm saying. But I always love that integrity question because people sit there and say, well, that's stealing. I'm like, well, it's not really stealing if, you didn't see the person drop it. But then we go into the whole morality statute and anything of that nature. But I love those type of just conversations of just really seeing about integrity and how folks would go about that. But I always thought that was an interesting story because it's always nice to see good people do great things. I'm not saying what the guy did was terrible because he did and his heart was right. Can't knock the guy for that. But if I found $9,000 on a folder, if I found $9,000 in money on a train, I just believe that the Lord let me find $9,000. That's just me. But moving right along, guys. The last feel good news story I have today is I always love finding these stories about what these kids can do, and this kid is no different.
Square. He's only an 8th grader at Port Allen Middle, but he's already doing big things.
I had a family, a Port Allen family who suffered from a fire. They came in and got a whole new closet full of clothes.
In the small closet behind the school stage is Pam's pantry, Neyland Square's brainchild.
All of the clothes and shoes that we give to students, they all keep, they don't give it back.
The pantry's more than just clothes, though.
We have markers, pencils, pencil sharpeners, and binders, and everything a student will need. I want to make a difference in the school because I wanted everybody to feel equal. Sometimes kids have less confidence in the classroom because of their apparel or what they have on.
The pantry is the product of a larger program called Spark.
Student Program for Arts, Recreation, and Knowledge.
Principal Jessica Major started the program 3 years ago to create young leaders.
We asked them, what would you want to do to make the school better? And through that, we have changed drastically some of the things that we do here at Port Allen Middle School.
Some of the ideas: lunch with the principal for good grades, extended recess, and better books in the library.
Like when the students have a say in it, it just makes things even more fun for them, because like it could probably be a new experience for some students and they could probably enjoy themselves while having fun.
Major hopes the students will take these experiences and use them once they leave, something Neyland Square is already planning to do.
I'm going to come back and continue working on Pam's Pantry. I'm hoping one day I can turn it into a non-profit organization.
But for now, he's helping his fellow classmates, one article of clothing at a time. Austin Kemker, WAFB 9 News.
And that to me is beautiful. There's just no way around that. And I've always said it best, kids honestly are the wisest folks. And trust me, as a guy who has been on this earth for 36 years, I've noticed that kids don't need to do a lot to understand the world. As like I told a story about last week, where the one autistic kid was having a bad day. This other kid just simply held his hand. They became friends. This one child sees other kids going through something and decides he wants to do something about it. You see kids that are doing lemonade stands to help out with domestic violence shelters. You see kids doing a number of things, and I always find that completely amazing that they can do that. At the same sense with that young man, it's just simply wanting to help. And honestly, that gives me a little bit of humanity for this world as far as that goes. So I have to give kudos to that. But anyway, guys, that's all we have here for How the Frack We Got Here. Do thank you everybody for watching. Some shameless plug before I hop off this shindig. I'm not the only cat that actually does podcasts here at How the Frack We Got Here. I'll just start off because in about the next couple of hours, my other friend, Thomas Reed, we call him Mountain Puncher, will be doing his To Be Determined podcast very shortly at 3 p.m. What's To Be Determined? To Be Determined is a fitness podcast. Anybody who's ever seen Thomas, whether in Facebook or in person, knows this man eats, sleeps, and breathes fitness. He literally is at the gym 7 days a week. I wouldn't be surprised if he's at the gym right now. But anyway, he loves to talk about things fitness, what works for him, what doesn't work, and of course, nutritional standards and just certain subjects that are on his heart that he just likes to talk about. Interactive show just like mine. So just look up Thomas Reed on Facebook to see when that goes live. Also, my other buddy Vaughn, aka 8 Wetherspoon on Facebook, BBA on YouTube, has several podcasts of his own. He actually has the Get That Reference VSTE, which is a 30-minute podcast over various news. That news can be music, video games, or upcoming trailers. But definitely will be something worth watching, as that will start every Sunday now on Facebook Live. He also has Rhythm This, where you can reminisce over the rhythm, which was just yesterday. Which is about a musical review, which he goes over albums, both past and present, and grades them to a 4-tier system. Want to know what that is? You have to watch Rhythm This to find out. And he also has Random as Fuck, which I think he's going to be doing at my house today. So what is Random as Fuck? Random as Fuck is the pool of radishes we sometimes dip our toes into to take a break from life and have a chuckle or two. Some videos make you laugh, some videos make you cry. Some videos will have you just literally, like my personal favorite, which is still on WorldStar right now, and you can look this up if you don't believe me. My favorite video is a woman who's at a Burger King. The Burger King itself is on fire. The employees are outside watching this woman still sitting at the drive-thru waiting for a change, as the building is on fire. I wish I could make that up. Still the funniest video to me. But again, Random as Fuck will be later today on Facebook Live and on YouTube. My other buddy Trace Brown, DJ, first of all, Trace Brown, DJ King Eddie Wayne, on YouTube, has several podcasts of his own. He'll start off with The Bump Down, which is a musical podcast, which is music, culture, knowledge, and numbers. He goes over what's hot on the charts and on the underground, and also loves to promote upcoming artists like Kiki J, Who's Hungry, Let's Eat. He also gives insight on the recording industry. Like I said, before I started watching the Bump Down, I had no idea about the recording industry and what's all entailed with it. And listening to him has actually gave me a broader idea of it. So, the Bump Down, which you definitely should watch that. He also has the Smoke of Truth, which is basically, as I call, the Check Your Ego at the Door, Not for the Faint of Heart podcast, because he goes in and he goes to those areas that a lot of people don't want to go, because, like I said, unless you can have that conversation without being offended, then that's where he'll be. Like I said, very unorthodox, very intelligent brother. Smoke of Truth, which is also a good podcast, also interactive just like mine. And of course, with my show on How the Frack We Got Here, which is every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon on Facebook, on YouTube. Also, later today, we'll be off this podcast from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., where it's the podcast that goes there. The reason why a podcast was created was, simply put, we have been told a long time ago that we shouldn't talk about sex, politics, religion, things of that nature with other people because it seems uncivilized. I believe that the simple fact that we've had a lack of those conversations has led to a lack of civil conversations. To me, people are always trying to talk over each other, yell at each other, or trying to force their opinions down everybody's throats, but nobody's willing to talk, listen, and vice versa. That's where all this podcast comes in, because we have the podcast that goes there. We're the podcast that will talk about something serious. We may talk about something silly. We may talk about something just completely off the wall. But we all talk and we all listen. That is the entire point of that podcast. So, off of this podcast, which will be today, later today, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Facebook Live and YouTube. Also, let me not forget my buddy Wingnut Gaming. What is John Wingnut Gaming? My buddy Wingnut is a first-person shooter. He loves Apex Legends. He loves Call of Duty. He loves Fortnite. His choice, not mine. And he's also back on playing WoW Classic. And basically, he is a very social guy, just loves to chuckle and have fun and crack jokes. But definitely, if you ever see him on Facebook, look up Wingnut Gaming, like, share, subscribe, and go from there. And also, like I said, all of our shows have YouTube channels. So if you look up How the Frack We Got Here, off of this podcast, DJ King Eddie Wayne, and of course BigBZA.podcast. All these are active YouTube pages to where you can like, share, and subscribe, and see every podcast we've done from there. So the last thing I'm definitely going to say about How the Frack We Got Here is all about staying informed. What does staying informed mean? Staying informed means that you're not accepting everything at face value. You're actually going in and doing the research to basically find the truth in what you're looking at, and hopefully be able to bring it to light with someone else to where they can follow it and go from there. Because an informed community can make a lot better decisions than an uninformed one, because an uninformed one got us Trump. And that's how the Frack We Got Here. So thank you guys for all watching this all live on YouTube and Facebook. And also, if you're watching this on the playback, feel free to comment as if you're here. I know you Trump supporters will. Aside from that, guys, thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful weekend. If you're in the areas of the Bahamas, of Florida, and every areas that Hurricane Dorian has hit, hopefully you're all safe. And hopefully you're all safe. You got away from it all. And if you were the ones that stayed in there, hopefully you guys came out unscathed. But definitely, I would hope that our governments are trying to basically help you build you back up. But after the same thing we did with Puerto Rico, I really hold my breath on that. But you guys stay strong. Aside from that, guys, thanks for watching How the Frack We Got Here. I'm out. Peace.